nii, ja ma palun professor Värnikul avada see arutelu.
I have to switch to from Estonian to English because it's. I guess that I will ask in English. And dear guest, I have just one question, and I would like to start our discussion with the theme of our conference. That was through cooperation, action from competitor to partner. And actually what I would like to ask, could you please explain how to achieve partnership instead of being competitors? So I know it's a very hard question, but therefore you are here in order to help us. So please, maybe Jos, you could ask, you could start.
Thank you for this difficult question, to be honest. Do I understand you correct that how to get from cooperation to partnership?
Yeah.
So there seems to be
actually, the question is how to achieve partnership instead of being competitor.
And being competitor. So
yes.
Then I understood you wrong. Yeah, being competitor or being a partner. Well, traditionally in the agricultural sector, farmers traditionally didn't consider themselves as competitors, particularly when they were price takers, and most farmers are price takers. Why would you consider your neighbor as a competitor? You're a colleague. So there doesn't have to be a lot of competition. I started out one of my presentations saying that dairy is a very good example of a sector where cooperatives are very strong. I also mentioned fruit and vegetables, but at the same time, in the fruit and vegetables sector, certainly now I'm referring to the situation in the Netherlands, farmers have become much more competitors because farmers in the fruit and vegetables, they have become big. Farmers have 10, 20, 30 hectares of tomatoes or peppers or other vegetables, greenhouse vegetables. So they consider themselves more increasingly as competitors. And they all want to get the best price for their own products, and they all want to develop the best products, the best working on innovations and product development. At the same time, they see that the market for their products is supermarkets, and these supermarkets are so big. Even if you're a big farmer with 20 hectares of tomatoes, then you're still such a small player for the supermarkets. So in that sense, also these vegetable farmers in the Netherlands, they realize we have to unite. I mean, yes, we may have different products, and yes, my tomatoes are always better than the neighbor's tomatoes, but they do consider themselves also, or they do realize that they have to be partners. So also these very entrepreneurial and very individualistic farmers in the fruit, and particularly in the greenhouse vegetable sector, they have realized that they have set up cooperatives, and they are jointly selling. And yes, they're fighting in their cooperatives, but still they realize if our enemy is the large retail company, then we have to collaborate.
Yeah, please give him mic.
I think I agree with Jos in terms of going from competition to partnership. I think it's important to understand where does it make sense to partner and where does it make sense to compete. You know, farmers are going to, you know, like Jos said, many years ago they didn't really compete on output price. It was a commodity price. Everybody got the same price. But now we see in Canada, farmers are very competitive with respect to land, very competitive with respect to employees. It makes sense to still be competitive in that space. There still are relational advantages to acquiring different rental agreements from different landowners, hiring employees from different areas. But where it makes sense to partner is in the Canadian example, again, in investing in research, investing in other things where, again, getting to that scale where there are benefits to pooling resources that benefit everybody in an area where individually you couldn't have those same benefits. So I think the key is identifying areas where it makes sense to be a partner and partner in those areas, and where it makes it still makes sense to be competitive, allow those markets to operate in a competitive space.
I think that the more complicated to provoke one fusion, one united, is the leadership, and to the moment that the farmer or the director from the small cooperative take decision themselves, say, I sell this product. The problem is that when you take the decision to go to one cooperative from first tier or for one cooperative for second tier, this leadership lose. And you go to one position below where you are, we can say, only the grower, because the person that takes the decision to sell is another. Naturally, this moment is the moment where there is people that can take that can understand that the market has changed. Understand that there is, for instance, now in Holland, is Ahold Delhaize, the supermarkets together. But then there is only one buyer, we can say. But I can know that and accept, but I want to remain as leadership or for one farm big or for one little cooperative. And this problem sometimes is more complicated are all discussion about the concentration from the market. Because when there is one merger to sell, not merger, not juridical merger to sell means that only one will be the seller. Who? There? I don't know. But because another can think why. And then sometimes it's personally problems.
I guess when you're approaching the question, which is how do you move from a competitor to being a partner, it depends on the market that you're in and the scale of your operation within the market. I come from Ireland and from a dairy background, so our market is the world dairy market, which is 700 billion litres. We have 7 billion litres, so we're 1% of the market. So it makes absolute sense that a lot of the functions that you would should undertake could be undertaken on a joint basis. There's a concept called co-opetition, which I think came from the motor industry, which has been embraced by the Irish dairy sector, which is to identify the bits that you're not directly in competition with, identify the bits that you can't really do on your own, and do them together. So in our scenario, it's mostly around the environment piece and around food security, all the bits that there's no real competitive advantage to doing on your own. So most of those challenges have been dealt with jointly because one person on their own couldn't do it.
Yeah, just in competition between the cooperatives, clear that all the cooperatives, they lose the power and they lose the money, and the same cooperatives, they offer the cheese to the same supermarket. Of course, supermarket will use his power to push the prices down, and there is just no point that there is clear economical benefit for each single farmers. And yeah, that's our particular situation in the Baltics, that we have so many small cooperatives and we not found a way how to merge or how to put this together.
Ma nüüd vahepeal küsin, on teil võimalus esitada küsimusi meie panelistidele. Et kindlasti jäi ennem ettekannete lõpus vähe võimalust küsimuste esitamiseks, aga praegu on nüüd see võimalus. Tõstke käsi, kes soovib küsida. Do you all have headphones with you?
So I will also try to ask in English, maybe then it will be easier for you. I enjoyed all of your presentations. It were very interesting and gave a good overview of the situation in different countries. And it was very impressive to see how cooperatives have been developed through all those years in different countries. And it was very encouraging to realize that economical results of cooperatives have been improved all the times, and the volumes processed and marketed through cooperatives have increased all the time. Very interesting were and very encouraging were point made by Mr. Flanagan that it has been 134 years time to make mistakes. And we as adult people, we quite often learn from mistakes, and unfortunately from our own mistakes. And it would be very interesting to hear from all of you what you think, what have been the biggest mistake or biggest mistakes from what you think cooperatives have benefited or learned the most for now or for future.
What have been the biggest mistakes of cooperatives? Well, maybe turn it around. So, what is the biggest key success factors of cooperatives? Well, one of the, if I may go back in the history of the cooperatives of the Netherlands, then one of the key factors that make cooperatives work well is have good leadership. And leadership on two sides, both having good people in the operations, we usually call that the managers, and both good people in the boards of directors, the people that are representing the owners, the farmers, and therefore basically controlling the managers. So you really need very good people on two sides. And they need to collaborate. And that is very challenging. Find very good managers that understand a cooperative business. We had examples in the Netherlands of fruit and vegetable cooperatives where they hired somebody from a large non-agricultural food company, and the person was only talking about marketing. And when you ask, what about the farmers? He said, I don't care about the farmers. Well, the next day he was fired. I mean, if that's the attitude of a manager in a cooperative, you don't last very long. So having good managers that understand the realities and the organizational peculiarities of the cooperative is very important. On the other hand, have good farmers, have farmers that really are well educated, have a good track record themselves, probably in boards and things like and other organizations that are able to deal with those ambitious entrepreneurial managers. Because on the one hand, you want an entrepreneurial manager on the business, of course, because you want the business to grow and to be successful. On the other hand, there's always the corporate governance issue of how to align the ambitions of the managers with the interests of the members, and therefore you need a very strong board of directors So choosing the right, and I think TJ said that there's people always choose the popular people for the board, of course, but make sure you choose the best people in terms of knowledge and ability to work collaboratively with entrepreneurial managers.
May I ask additional question to you? Corporate governance. Can you explain a bit? What does that mean?
Corporate governance.
Governance.
Corporate governance basically means how you structure your organization, how you make sure that the managers work in the interest of the owners. There are many examples within cooperatives, outside of cooperatives, of businesses where the managers have gone their own way, working for their short-term own interest or working for whoever's interest, but not necessarily in the interest of the company. Sorry, of the owners of the company. So corporate governance is really about having a transparency, having accountability, having clearly set strategies, and really having the right incentive structures and information systems that make sure that whoever is in charge of the operations continues to work in the interest of the owners.
I think kind of along the same lines of what Joost said, but perhaps a little different when he talks about making sure that there's good management. I think one of the other things is what those managers do is how do they ensure that there's still that shared vision among members of why have they formed a cooperative? So as cooperatives get bigger, sometimes we lose sight of that common goal of why was that co-op formed in the first place? Because with scale they find all of these different ventures to enter into, all for the benefit of the farmer owner. But I think part of the goal of the management is making sure that we're pulling on that rope in the same direction, right? So where we see cooperatives struggle is when that's lost and we get member heterogeneity, and members don't fully see the value of the co-op, and that's where you tend to see members defect, if you will, of not supplying the full, not utilizing the cooperative to the full extent of what they could. So I think that good management is in tune to the needs of the members and ensuring that the goal of the co-op is still meeting all of those needs of members, and if they do that, then I think we avoid some of the issues that we've seen where co-ops have failed or have exited. We can avoid that. So I think that's one of the issues that they could work on.
One sample from Anecop. Get drunk on success. That means that I have presented the company, not the company closed. And the big fiasco from Anecop was one factory similar to the factory that I have presented to fruit salad, the fruit salad of fruit, but for cat salad. And we has developed in one moment as our success was, and then we invest one new factory, and we lose 4 million euros. Today we can analyze, and we know that we do a lot of fiascos. And why we don't realize? Because we got drunk of success.
I think one of the mistakes that we see made is that just because the business is doing well and healthy doesn't mean that the co-op is healthy. So in many times the business is doing really well, it's well invested, it has lowish manageable levels of debts, and it has invested in the technology, and the products are good, and the customers are good, and the profit and loss is good, and the balance sheet is looking good. But the cooperative may not be healthy, because the cooperative is the people, the 1,000 milk suppliers, or the 500 milk suppliers, or the 5,000 milk suppliers, and the members. And if you don't invest in the cooperative, which is the boring stuff, it's the stuff that doesn't make profit, it's the education programs that you run, it's the seminars that you run, it's all the stuff that keeps members interested and active and attending meetings and trying to get elected. If you don't invest in that structure, ultimately the only people who will come to the meetings are people who have time, the people who are retired or aren't busy or aren't very good at farming, and they'll be the people that move up through the structure. So you need to keep that structure healthy so that you get the best people to get elected. And that involves spending money on events and seminars and trips and education and all that stuff that makes no profit. But if you don't invest in your cooperative, in your structure, in 5 years, 10 years, in 20 years' time, you'll have a weak board. And when you have a weak board, the hand that's on that tiller that's providing the governance gets weak, and then the business will fail.
You ask about the mistakes. Clear that the mistakes comes from wrong decisions, but sometime we never think that we do wrong decisions, but by the time we could understand that some decisions was wrong. And how to avoid to make wrong decisions? You know, the past, there was 10, 15 years ago, there was a lot of negative information, all the Europe against the cooperatives. The cooperatives are slowly, and they not adopt with new market situation, they not adopt with new products what they need to do. They like to do the simple commodities and to be rich. Maybe that time, there was on the 80s and 90s quite stable. You produce 1-2 types of goods, but after the Asian booming, the market started to change. Today we need to produce the cheese, what we not call the cheese in Europe, but if the Chinese like to call them cheese, okay, this is cheese. I think today the cooperatives is act. They are very big ones, but they act very professionally. They have professional management everywhere. But what we need to avoid, of course, is the sharing the information to the members. And we have good benefit in Estonia. We have big size of farmers, and we have 100, 200, 300 members cooperative, and all the strategical decisions and new decisions are entering to the new market. We could all vote even in General Assembly. And transparency comes if all the members know what we do, where we go, and the time will show if the decision was right or not. In this case, we need to do decisions. You know, the business decisions today is always made in situation of lack of information and lack of the time. But the most terrible is no decisions.
So, and then I have another question related with actually what we asked before, but now I would like to just talk about the member level, and how to make, for example, member more committed to the cooperative. Is it clear? Okay. How to make more committed?
How to make the member more committed? Well, first, what is commitment? What is member commitment? I would define member commitment consisting of 3 elements.
Okay.
One is loyalty, which means delivering your product 100%, at least if that's the agreement with the cooperative. So you deliver all your product to the cooperative. So you don't do any what they particularly in the developing countries called side selling. The second part is effort. You're willing to do something extra for your cooperative that may involve investment. or it may involve working in the cooperative or do some voluntary job. So time and money investments in your cooperative. And the third element is identity. Identifying with your cooperative, which for instance means that you're talking positive about the cooperative, that you're willing to defend your cooperative, that you're willing to tell in a birthday party when you're sitting with your family, you tell positive stories about your cooperative, and you want your neighbors and your friends to be members. So that is identity. So those are 3 lines on which you can also, as a cooperative, both boards and managers can work on member commitment. Of course, the price has to be good. Okay. I mean, I would say that's the bottom line. But prices vary, so it doesn't have to be good all the time. At least the member has to have the trust that, there will be a better price in the end. So members are willing to take a lower price if there is some guarantee that in the end there is a good price. So the loyalty depends very much on the economic benefit. But on those other issues, it's also, well, actually we talked about that already. It's very much about communication, and it's very much about taking your members serious, and it's very much involving them in all kinds of activities, and it's very much about organizing meetings with your members. So, for instance, if I may take an example from Friesland Campina, the dairy cooperative in the Netherlands, they're organizing meetings, events at the member farm level for whoever wants to visit it. So it's marketing, it's a promotion of the product, but it's also having people from the neighborhood, from the community, visiting the farm and see how things go on in the farm, and talking about and telling about what's going on the farm, and talking about. So it's a very it's promoting not just the cooperative and its products, but it's promoting basically also the member farms. So farmers are very eager to be involved in this type of activities. They get all their extra work is being facilitated and maybe even paid for. So they're eager to do that because they're proud to be involved in those kind of activities. So that's one of the examples how you can work on member commitment.
I also think commitment is a function of that shared vision of the co-op. So with that shared vision is going to affect that behavioral and attitudinal loyalty to the co-op. So things that management can do to ensure that, again, is that communication. Are members feeling that their voices are being heard by management? So what are the structures and the processes that the management is putting in place to open that dialogue, to have members feel and believe that their concerns are being heard? And that leads into identification of leadership material in the future. So for the young farmers that are members of the co-op, are they mentoring them to work into a leadership role as their time allows them to devote, as their families get older, maybe they have more time to be on a board. So identifying those members early on who are potential leadership in the future. I think that's through those processes it helps build the bench, if you will, of who's going to be the leaders in the next 5, 10, 20 years.
I think that Professor Bijman has said all in this direction, but I must say that sometimes, in the case from Spain, in the case from ANECOP, or also in the case from cooperative from first degree, I think that we need a little more marketing from the cooperative to the member to provoke also the value from the cooperatives. Sometimes I have the impression that one label from Coca-Cola or one label from something has more correct marketing to provoke this relationship. And sometimes I think that one portion from marketing will be interesting.
We generally have two types of farmers in our cooperatives. We have the older people who've been there since milk quotas came in, or 35 years ago, and those people are pretty loyal. They've been there, they're used to it, but they won't be milking cows in 10 years' time. They'll be retired. And then we have the other population who are the new people who've come in the last 5 years. They're new entrants, they're young people, they're very busy, they're very professional. They don't have the same empathy with the co-op because they've borrowed a lot of money. They haven't time or space to put up with old ways of doing things. They're very demanding, and how they will judge a cooperative is on the basis of the milk price. Principally, that's the biggest thing. But those people are looking for a partner in their business because they can put milk in their bulk tank. They can't process it or send it to China. So they're looking for a partner to take their product to China. They have to respect that partner and they have to have some empathy with the partner. So the co-op has to invest substantially in those people, holding meetings when those people can go, talking to them, getting them to go to the meetings, speaking to them in a way that respects them, appeals to them, or sort of communicates with them in a way that they're used to. And I don't know if they use the term in Estonian, but to get them inside the tent, pissing out rather than outside the tent pissing in. So it's very important to deal with those people and appeal to those people, because if you lose that generation, they will just judge a cooperative on who's got the highest milk price this month, and you won't always have the highest milk price.
Yeah, there is not too much to add to gentleman definition or comments, but in Estonian environment, I think now that's important that members understand main strategy of the cooperatives, and members are regularly informed how the business going, how we achieve the strategy, and just they are sharing the information to build up the trust.
Thank you. Now is time for next question from you. Please pick your hand. I come with microphone, please.
Hello to everybody. My name is Sofia Burtak. I come from Ukraine, and we try to develop the kind of training department, a Co-op Academy. Last summer, I was participating, and I entered the Association of Co-op Developers in North America, ACE, and I was going there with one question: how to make the good training, good education to attract, to explain, and to make farmers be aware what the co-op model is. At first, I thought that North America is so traditional, so a lot of co-ops, and I thought that all people, all farmers already know the model, but as TJ said, the new generation has a new challenges. Like all the parents, grandparents were in the co-ops all their life, but the new generations who come to the co-op, they don't quite understand and don't quite need the co-op because the market is already there, all the infrastructure is already there. So I see that new challenge for the co-ops, old and new, is still to have the good tools for the education and good tools how to involve farmers, new generation, and in new communities, new societies like in Ukraine. We are challenged by the old Soviet Union time model, for example. So at first we need to have to deal with the resistance. What is your vision and recommendation? Could education, especially co-op education, be a key success? What kind of tools you have experience to be a good co-op developers, co-op promoters? Maybe you have some recipe to share.
Let's start from Jaanus this time. Opposite.
Yeah, education is always good. Also cooperative educations. I think, cooperative philosophy is a little bit different. I am same feeling that in some countries where cooperative is well known or they have a huge market share already last 100 years, then people don't have, they even not think, they can't think other way. They know that the grandfather was member of the cooperative, father was member of the cooperative, and I need to be member of the cooperative because cooperative works to me. I am owner of the cooperative. And to the cooperative chain, I control all the market, all the value chain. But of course, world changing and young generation will come. Yeah, we see now this millennium generation is a little bit different than we are. And of course, there is special cooperative educations. We have also in our university cooperative study. And I think we need some critical amount of the professors with cooperative educations who could educate the cooperatives, make some brainstorming for cooperative advisory board. Yeah, like always.
I can't tell you what is the absolute correct answer, but what we do for most of our cooperatives is every autumn, because I told you that the cows are dried off in the winter, so from maybe next week onwards, dairy farmers will have lots of free time. We run training, we call them training programs, but 4, 5 or 6 day training programs for farmers, and the cooperative actually get out and persuade people, come in, you'll learn a lot. And so there's some is about the cooperative and the rules, the boring bits. Some of it is about the business, the sexy business that's inside the stainless steel factory that ordinary people don't understand. Stuff about the dairy market, so what people eat in China, what's happening in terms of consumption, all that stuff that dairy farmers actually are interested in, because they would like to know what's behind the business. So we do run those programs. The responses are very good, they're positive. We also include though modules in them around finance, so that they actually learn something for their own business. So they're 4, 5 or 6 day modules depending on the cooperative. And the responses, people who do them think they're really good. The problem is getting people into the room day one because they're very, very busy. But what it does do is it builds up the farmers' identification with the cooperative. They start to see the cooperative as a partner now. I need a partner to get my milk to China. Who'll do it? And actually, when they've had that time, they realize, yeah, these guys have a good plan. I understand the strategy. Maybe it won't always give the highest milk price. Maybe in 6 months' time, the neighbouring co-op might have 1 cent a litre or 2 cents a litre. But that's okay, because now I understand the strategy, and I think over 20 years it's a good partnership. So it's about building a long-term relationship.
I think that you have here in Europe one perfect university to visit cooperatives from the same branch, I don't know exactly, but the same branch, in cooperatives that are ready to explain the success and the fiascos. Not only one theater like we prepare when we receive the visit from the supermarkets. That is another thing. But this, that we are ready to explain our success and our fiascos. And sure, for the young people is ready to go, but with time, not 2 hours, no. Prepare it, what are their list of questions, what are all these details, and 1 week, not 1 day, 1 week, and naturally to found the correct cooperative to explain his experience, good and bad. That's my view.
I don't know how much more I can add to what's been said, but in the North American system, we tend to have a lot of faculty members across U.S. universities and Canadian universities that study cooperatives. So a lot of that education is not coming through the cooperative, but it's coming through university research to the farmers' students that are attending university. A lot of the farmers now in Canada have some post high school education, So they're learning about cooperatives and the cooperative business model in a general sense at university. So in that way, you know, when they get to a member training or director training, they have a bit of an understanding of the cooperative model and the cooperative principles. And then when they do get to that cooperative leadership, that individual cooperative can focus on the things that they want to focus. So I think what might work is to look around the world of cooperative education and take what you see as best practice, and hopefully that gets implemented in your country.
Okay, maybe a few points to add is that, well, first, if you want to appeal to young people, then you have to understand where young people get their information from. And if I look at my own kids, you know, it's either social media or it's YouTube videos. So it realizes me that we're doing a quite old-fashioned style of symposium here. We didn't even have one video. I think that's you wouldn't attract young people with this type of. I mean, I think it's good because people understand and are willing to do that, but. If you really want to go for the young people, then you have to do it slightly different. Another thing is that, and this is the experience in the Netherlands, the agricultural cooperatives are considered the traditional cooperatives, and they don't raise a lot of enthusiasm by whoever. But there is a lot of innovation and a lot of dynamism in other types of cooperatives or cooperatives in other sectors. We see a lot of new cooperatives in the healthcare sector. We see cooperatives in small communities where they start their shop where no commercial retailer want to establish a store, but the people in the community are doing that. We see energy cooperatives popping up. So, and those are the examples of a lot of dynamism, and that's in any course on cooperatives or any program or training, you should not just focus on the one sector, but also link to other sectors and present it as a broader societal movement. And a last point I want to make, and this is a little bit of a hobby horse of me. If you work we tend to want to train the members of the cooperative. But I think we should also not forget the employees of the businesses that are owned by cooperatives. And I think these employees that work in cooperative companies, sometimes they just don't realize enough what is a cooperative. Maybe if they've been there for many years, they do, but particularly the young employees that start working for cooperative businesses, they need also training on cooperative values and norms and principles. So these are some extra suggestions on how to work on this very important issue of cooperative education and training.
So thank you. I have just one last question, and it's related about how we could solve this kind of free riding problem in cooperatives. Free riding. How we can solve free riding?
How can we solve it? Where did you get all these difficult questions?
Yeah, because I have a lot of questions here, and therefore I would like to have your answers.
Yeah. Well, of course, it may not be always very difficult. It depends what is free riding and where corporate. But anyway, I think from a more general point of view, there are two ways of preventing free riding: making clear what are the benefits of being in the cooperative. So making sure that delivering to the cooperative, if it is a marketing cooperative, clearly has benefits compared to the other option. And the second one is being very strict. If you have a regulation, a rule in the cooperative of you're not allowed to free ride or you're not allowed to behave opportunistic, you really have to be strict. You have to sanction these people. Otherwise, everybody will say, well, everybody can get away with free riding. So, and that is sometimes not so common to do so. You know, certainly among farmers, you know, everybody's maybe doing a little bit of outside of the law, either in terms of tax or selling products. But if you really want to get rid of free riding, you have to be strict. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think as I shared in my story of the Sask pulse growers, which again is not a typical cooperative, but they've basically established or structured their levy so they couldn't have free riders. So it was most of the producer groups in Saskatchewan have a non-refundable or a refundable levy. Pardon me. Most of the groups would have a refundable levy, and if you looked at yields for those groups, they've been pretty stagnant. Maybe a little bit of an uptick. Sask Pulse says, no, we're not going to allow you to take your money out and free ride on the investments that other farmers have made. If you're going to grow pulses, you're going to commit. So I think again, like Yo said, you essentially prevent that in the structure to make that as difficult as possible, but also through the benefit of yield growth. It shows the benefit of being a member of that group, of growing pulses and continuing to invest that levy. You're getting a return in higher yield and better access to markets and higher prices. And so it goes back to Jos's comment of showing the value and continuing to show that value, and then you might reduce some of that opportunism of the producer to look for other options.
That is apart from the back. It's like I explained you, with 1,000 members in one assembly, what can happen, but also with less. That is, I think that is the risk, not a risk, must be sometimes, will be not possible. All assembly, blah, 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 will not possible. But sometimes you need to explain, and it's clear that sometimes you speak with some people that you know that is the man that has less reasons to speak. But that is in life is a normal situation. And then patience.
I guess the concept of free riders is part. It's built into the the challenge that's in every cooperative, because it's a reasonably loose collection of people, of capitalists who come together to pool resources, to a particular end. But you could have somebody who is, 500 cows and somebody next door who has 50 cows. Our model says they get the same milk price. Now the guy with the 500 cows is thinking, hang on a minute, I'm much more valuable. So he's going to try and always look for a better deal, and that tension is always going to be there. And you need to have rules and structures in place that can try to reduce that as much as you can, but you can't be naive either. This guy will get a better deal somewhere. One of the things that we would do is, because our cooperatives are multi-purpose, they sell the feed and the fertilizer, and then they buy the milk and the grain. They reward loyalty. People who trade to a certain extent within the cooperative get a bonus at the end of the year, whether it's a share bonus or a cash bonus. So there are some business tools that can be used, but there's no simple answer, because bigger guys, more selfish people will always want to do better.
Yeah, free riding, or like we call in Estonia, passenger without ticket. I think in Estonia is the more problem that we have not so much cooperatives, and inside the cooperatives we not see passenger without the tickets, because cooperatives are quite strict rules, and even General Assembly could vote that somebody needs to leave the cooperative membership if they not follow the rules or articles of associations. But we see today that cooperative struggling a lot and do a lot of work to adjust on the market the fair prices for milk or meat or other issues. But there is a lot of farmers who just laughing that cooperatives, they need to manage with that, they have costs to work in cooperative, and they just enjoy the higher prices on the market. That's maybe most Estonian problem now.
Thank you for this session, and actually I have a lot of questions what I would like to ask, but anyhow, maybe next time. Thank you for this session, and now I'm giving the floor to the Vahur, please.
Thank you, everybody. Big applause. Both discussions were very fruitful, and now you can take your seats back in audience. Meie konverentsipäev hakkab lähenema lõpule. Enne kui päris kokkuvõtte teeme, soovin teile näidata mõningaid trükiseid. Aasta tagasi meie ühistegevuse pikaajaline programm andis välja teabematerjali alustavale ühistule. Täna on võimalik seda saada ainult parimatest raamatukogudest, nii et võtke tee sinna, kes on pärast tänast konverentsi jõudnud veendumusele, et ühistegevus ja ühistute tegemine on üks väga õige asi, siis siin on need jutud kirjas. Aga kohe-kohe ilmub ühistegevuse pikaajalise programmi raames ka ühistegevuse käsiraamat, mida me siin oma tiimiga ja heade partneritega, keda täna on siin ka saalis palju, oleme aasta otsa kokku pannud ja tuleb välja üks väga põhjalik eestikeelne mahukas trükis. Nii et varsti, kui see trükikojast saabub, siis anname teile kõigile ka sellest märku. Ja üks asi veel. Sel aastal toimus Euroopa farmerite kongress Austrias Linzis ja selle kongressi üks peatoetajaid oli Raiffeiseni ühistupank. Raiffeiseni ühistupanga rajas Friedrich Wilhelm Raiffeisen ja tema sünnist sel aastal möödus 200 aastat. Ja Euroopa farmerite kongressil kõikide selliste suuremate sündmuste eel sai Raiffeiseni panga esindaja seal ka alati sõna ja ta ütles igal pool ühe olulise lause. Ja see lause eesti keeles võiks kõlada siis nii: mida ühiselt ei suuda, seda suudetakse koostöös. Ja Raiffeiseni pank nimetab seda lausa oma panga peaideeks ja nüüd, kus 200 aastat panga looja sünnist sai mööda, nad andsid välja ühe väga toreda saksakeelse kokkuvõtte, mille pealkiri on idee jõud. Nii et tuleme tagasi selle ühistegevuse juurde ja ühistute juurde. Rando täna alustas, et suurimaks takistuseks on meil inimeste isekus ühistute loomisel, kooshoidmisel, tegevuses, siis seesama mõte, et kui on tugev idee, mis on nii suure jõuga, siis see kannab läbi mitmesaja aasta ja on võimalik ühiselt, ühistulises vormis teha suuri imesid. Ma võtsin ühe raamatu sealt kaasa ja kingin täna professor Värnikule, et meie pikaajaline programm võib-olla saab siit mõned olulised ideed ja mõtted edaspidiseks konverentsideks ja ühtlasi annan lõppsõnaks sõna professor Värnikule. Palun.
Head konverentsist osavõtjad, pikk päev hakkab läbi saama ja tegelikult ma olen olnud siin päev otsa elevil ja elevil sellepärast, et mõeldes, et mida see konverents andis siis meile tulevikuks kaasa. Ja tegelikult eks üks selline ühine tegemine, koostöö ongi üks partnerlus ja mulle jäi meelde üks mõte, mis ütles Iiri kolleeg siin välja, et inimene iseenesest on ju selline, tahab olla üksi ja tahab üksinda otsustada ja nii edasi. Nii nagu ma täna alustasin päeva, et alati me peame nagu laskma sellest isekusest lahti ja mõtlema, kuidas koostöös saabki rohkem kasulikkust luua. Nii tegelikult läbi selle koostöö ja sellise ühise mõtlemise, tegutsemise ongi võimalik ka suuri asju saavutada. Ma lihtsalt näitan teile pilti praegu, mis on meie siis tiimi pilt ja ühtlasi kutsun juba järgmiseks aastaks teid uuesti meie konverentsile, mis saab jälle korraldatud olema meie programmi raames. Järgmine teema järgmisel aastal on siis turundus ühistegevuses, aga mitte sellega ei taha ma täna lõpetada, et tegelikult tahtsin öelda veel mõningaid mõtted, mis tänase päeva kuulamisel tekkisid. Ma kõigepealt tänan kõiki neid väliskülalisi, kes said tulla võimaluse siia ja anda üle seda teadmist, mida neil on. Neil on kindlasti neid teadmisi oluliselt rohkem, kui me täna siia päeva mahutasime. Aga selleks me siin olemegi, et seda teadmist edasi anda ja püüda seda siis omakorda teieni viia. Üks mõte, mis esimestest ettekannetest jäi ja mida ma väga toetan, on see, et meil on vaja rohkem teadmist. Meil on vaja kompetentsi luua, et ülikool on tõenäoliselt selline koht, kus kompetentsi luuakse ja kus kompetentsi antakse edasi ühiskonnale. Et ka Ukraina kolleegi küsimus, et kuidas tegelikult siis ikkagi kõnetada noort põlvkonda ühistegevuses, see on tõsine väljakutse, aga ma arvan, et me võime siin natuke koostööd teha ja rääkida, kuidas seda oleks võimalik. Siiski veel, et meil on ühistegevuse mõttes on väga suured väljakutsed. Me räägime väärtusahelast, kuidas me liigume väärtusahelast edasi, kuidas me suudame sektorisse rohkem raha tuua. See tähendab tegelikult ühist mõtlemist, ühiste suurte eesmärkide seadmist ja natukene ka võib-olla siis olla järelehandlikum selleks, et ühiseid võite nautida. Kindlasti on üks suur eesmärk see, et kuidas seda kõike siis ka tulevikus teha veelgi keskkonnasõbralikumalt, nagu me nägime, meie Iiri kolleegidel on juba selline nii-öelda roheline strateegia paigas, kuidas jätkusuutlikumalt ühistegevuse kaudu luua väärtust, kuidas seda pakkuda oma tarbijatele. Need on uued väljakutsed, mida me tõenäoliselt peame arvestama ja mida me ka tõenäoliselt peame arvestama oma programmi juures, et kuidas neid siis omakorda teieni viia. Aga ma alustan, või ma tahan lõpetada sellega, et ma küsisin, et kuidas siis ikkagi oleks võimalik liita oma ühistu liikmeid või kuidas neid hoida selles omas ühistus. See on tõenäoliselt kõige suurem väljakutse, et kuidas siis hoida oma liikmeid, oma organisatsiooni liikmeid oma ühistus ja kuidas siis selles globaalses kontekstis püüda hoida ka oma nägu. Sest me peame meeles pidama, et rahvusvahelisel turul me kõik konkureerime omavahel. Aga meil on võimalik, kui me leiame mõttekana, meil on võimalik teha koostööd. Nende sõnadega ma tahangi tänast konverentsi lõpetada. Ma loodan, et see aeg ei olnud raisatud, et te leidsite palju huvitavaid mõtteid ja kindlasti jälle nägemisene. Ja meie logo kõlab niimoodi, et koostöös teeme paremini, jätame selle meelde ja mõtleme, kuidas seda koos teha. Aitäh, et tulite!